The Black family froze as the racist woman's voice cut through the morning air at Buckingham Palace.
What are you doing here? This isn't your place!
She circled them like a predator, her hatred on full display while tourists filmed in uncomfortable silence. But what none of them, including the racist, knew was that the royal guard observing it all was about to deliver a response so powerful it would go viral worldwide and change how millions think about racism, belonging, and true patriotism. But before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe, because tomorrow we'll bring you another story that will challenge everything you think you know about courage, humanity, and what it truly means to serve. The morning sun cast golden rays across the palace courtyard as Dr. Amara Williams adjusted her 8-year-old daughter's backpack. As founder and director of the Global Unity Foundation, she'd traveled from Atlanta to London for the International Human Rights Summit. Her organization had spent 15 years fighting racial injustice worldwide, helping over 50,000 families across 6 continents. Today was meant to be simple, showing her daughter Maya the changing of the guard ceremony before tomorrow's crucial UN presentation on global human trafficking. Maya's eyes sparkled with excitement as she pointed toward the iconic red uniforms.
Mommy, look! They're so tall and their hats are so fluffy!
Her innocent joy drew gentle smiles from nearby tourists, a beautiful reminder that wonder knows no color. She clutched her stuffed lion, a gift from children at the foundation's school in Kenya, unaware that her simple presence was about to trigger a confrontation that would change multiple lives forever. Guard Sergeant Marcus Thompson stood at attention near the palace gates, his dark skin a stark contrast to the bright scarlet of his ceremonial uniform. At 31, he'd served 8 years with distinction, including 2 tours in Afghanistan, where his unit had saved countless lives in joint operations with American forces. His chest bore ribbons telling stories of valor most civilians would never hear: the Distinguished Service Cross, the Military Cross, and the Afghanistan Campaign Medal with 3 clasps. But his most treasured memory wasn't from any battlefield. It was from 3 years ago, when he'd made the most important decision of his life, one that connected him to the very woman now standing in the courtyard with her daughter. Thompson's mind briefly wandered to that morning 3 years prior, when doctors had told him and Sarah that her kidney failure was entering its final stages. Sarah Hartwell, the brilliant marine biologist he'd met at a veterans support group, had been on the transplant list for 18 months with no compatible matches. Time was running out, and conventional medicine had reached its limits. That's when a friend mentioned the Global Unity Foundation's International Medical Network, a program that connected donors and recipients across racial and national boundaries. Dr. Amara Williams herself had personally coordinated the complex medical and legal arrangements when Marcus tested as a perfect match for Sarah. The surgery had taken place at London's Royal Free Hospital, with Dr. Williams present throughout the grueling 14-hour procedure. 6 months later, Marcus and Sarah were married in a small ceremony at Westminster Abbey. Dr. Williams had been their guest of honor, and their 1-year-old son, James, beautiful, biracial, and healthy, was living proof that love transcends every artificial boundary society tries to construct. The morning crowd thickened as tour groups arrived, cameras clicking and guidebooks rustling. Among them, 24-year-old Charlotte Stevens emerged from a black cab, her blonde hair catching the sunlight. Fresh from her marketing job at a prestigious tech startup, she'd planned this solo trip to celebrate her recent promotion to senior account manager. But Charlotte carried something else. Prejudice is shaped by years of privilege, social media echo chambers, and unchallenged assumptions about who belonged where in British society. "Excuse me," Charlotte's voice rang out as she approached Dr. Williams and Maya, her tone immediately setting several nearby tourists on edge. The sharp pitch carried down the street, causing heads to turn from their photography and sightseeing. "What are you doing here?" Dr. Williams looked up from helping Maya with her camera, confused by the aggressive tone. "I'm sorry?" Charlotte's eyes narrowed, her voice growing louder as her confidence built. "This is Buckingham Palace. This isn't your neighborhood. What are you really doing here?" She gestured broadly, her movements becoming more theatrical as she sensed the attention she was drawing. "Taking photos for Instagram? Playing tourist in our country? Or is this some kind of protest thing?" Dr. Williams felt her daughter's hand tighten in hers. "Maya, stay close," Dr. Williams whispered. Her voice steadied. "We're tourists, like everyone else here. My daughter wanted to see the guards." Charlotte's laugh was bitter and sharp, the sound cutting through the morning air like breaking glass. "Tourists? Really? More like you're probably here illegally. How much did it cost to get here? Welfare money? Charity handouts?" Her voice carried across the courtyard, causing more heads to turn, phones to lift, and conversations to halt mid-sentence. "This place represents centuries of British heritage. It's not some backdrop for your poverty tourism or whatever statement you're trying to make." From his position 20 feet away, Sergeant Thompson's trained awareness had been tracking the escalating situation for the past 2 minutes. His military discipline kept him motionless in ceremonial stance, but every instinct honed through years of service was now focused on the unfolding confrontation. He recognized the signs from his crowd control training, the circling behavior, the raised voice, the way other tourists were beginning to form a loose ring around the incident. Most concerning was the way the aggressor was positioning herself between the family and potential escape routes. Thompson's internal conflict was intense. Royal Guard protocol was sacred. Maintaining position, staying silent, preserving the dignity of the uniform above all else. Breaking character was grounds for disciplinary action, potentially ending his career. But his deeper training, his moral compass, forged in combat zones where he'd sworn to protect the innocent, was screaming at him to act. Uneasy male American. "Ma'am, I really think you should step back," attempted an American tourist, his Midwest accent thick with discomfort. "They're not bothering anyone. This is inappropriate." The middle-aged man looked around for support, his wife nodding vigorously beside him while clutching her own daughter's hand protectively. Furious female confrontational, Charlotte spun toward him with renewed fury. "Oh, you two, all coming together to defend this invasion? They don't belong here. This is our history, our culture, built by our ancestors. They should go back to wherever they came from and stop pretending they have a right to be in civilized places like this." De-escalating female. "Ma'am, please." Dr. Williams tried again, her professional training in de-escalation evident in her measured tone. "I understand you're upset about something, but we're simply here to show my daughter the ceremony. We mean no disrespect to anyone or anything." "To what? Teach your daughter that she can just take whatever she wants? That places like this are hers for the taking?" Charlotte's voice reached a crescendo, her face flushed with anger and adrenaline. "Your people always want something for nothing. Always playing victim, always demanding special treatment, always crying racism when you're called out for not belonging somewhere." Maya began to cry softly, the sound innocent and confused and utterly heartbreaking. She didn't understand the words being hurled at her and her mother, but she understood hatred when she heard it. The sound, a child's pain caused by naked bigotry, seemed to cut through the morning air more sharply than any shouted words. Several onlookers looked away, unable to bear witness to such cruelty directed at someone so young and innocent. That's when Sergeant Marcus Thompson made a decision that would define not just his career, but his character. It wasn't the dramatic motion of a soldier charging into battle. It was something far more powerful. The deliberate, precise movement of a man who'd reached his moral limit. His boots clicked against the cobblestones with military precision as he stepped away from his ceremonial position for the first time in his 4-hour shift. The crowd fell silent, as if someone had turned off the sound in a movie. Even Charlotte stopped mid-sentence, suddenly aware that something extraordinary was happening. The Royal Guards were legendary for their immobility, their refusal to break character under any circumstances. Tourists tried for hours to make them laugh, move, or speak, always failing. But here was one moving with unmistakable purpose. His bearing somehow both ceremonial and deeply personal. "Miss!" Thompson's voice, military command, but also something warmer. Compassion mixed with steel, dignity partnered with determination. "I believe you've made several significant mistakes this morning." Charlotte's face flushed deeper, her confidence wavering for the first time. Guards don't talk. You're supposed to stand there silently, that's the whole point." "Today, silence isn't an option," Thompson replied, his gaze steady and unwavering. "You've questioned this family's right to be here. You've insulted their character, their worth, their belonging in this country and at this historic site. But what you don't know about the people you're attacking might fundamentally change your perspective." He turned slightly toward Dr. Williams, his formal military bearing softening with genuine respect and recognition. "Ma'am, Would you mind sharing with everyone what brought you to London this week? Dr. Williams hesitated, unaccustomed to personal details becoming public theater, but sensing the importance of the moment. I'm here for the International Human Rights Summit at the UN building. I run the Global Unity Foundation. We're presenting new anti-trafficking initiatives tomorrow. The Global Unity Foundation, Thompson repeated, his voice carrying enough volume for the growing crowd of nearly 50 people to hear clearly. For those who don't know, that's the humanitarian organization that saved over 50,000 lives in the past 15 years. The foundation that built 63 schools in underserved communities worldwide. The organization that operates medical clinics in 7 countries, provides clean water to over 200 villages, and has reunited more than 3,000 families separated by conflict and trafficking. Charlotte's confident smirk began to falter as the crowd absorbed this information. Curious crowd engaged, several people were already Googling the foundation on their phones, their expressions changing as they discovered the scope and impact of Dr. Williams's work. Controlled male reveal. But most relevant to this moment, Thompson continued, his next words carefully chosen for maximum impact. 3 years ago, Dr. Williams personally coordinated the medical miracle that saved my wife's life. My wife, Sarah, my white British wife, was dying of kidney failure at age 26, Thompson continued, his voice growing stronger with each word. She'd been on the transplant list for 2 years with no compatible matches. The NHS had exhausted all conventional options. Private healthcare had reached its limits. Sarah had perhaps 6 weeks to live when Dr. Williams's foundation connected us through their international medical network. The crowd was absolutely silent now, everyone understanding they were witnessing something profound. Charlotte stood frozen, her earlier aggression replaced by growing horror at her mistake. The donor match they found, Thompson said, narrative pausing for emphasis, was me. I gave my kidney to save Sarah's life, with Dr. Williams personally coordinating the complex medical, legal, and cultural arrangements across 2 countries and 3 hospital systems. She was present throughout the 14-hour surgery, advocating for both of us when complications arose. 6 months after the surgery, Thompson continued, Sarah and I were married. Dr. Williams was our guest of honor at Westminster Abbey. Our son James, he's biracial, he's beautiful, and he just started walking last month, exists because this woman you just told to go back where she came from saved his mother's life. Charlotte's face had gone completely pale, the color draining as if someone had pulled a plug. I didn't know. I couldn't have known. You didn't know, Thompson agreed firmly, because you didn't ask. You didn't pause. You didn't consider that your assumptions might be wrong. You saw skin color and made judgments. You saw a black family and decided they didn't belong in a place you consider yours. But this woman, Dr. Amara Williams, has spent her entire adult life building bridges between communities that people like you tried to divide. An elderly black man in the crowd stepped forward.
I know who you are,
He said to Dr. Williams with reverence.
Your foundation helped my grandson Marcus get his leukemia treatment when our insurance company said it was experimental and wouldn't cover it. That boy is alive and healthy because of your organization. He's starting university next month.
A white woman with a thick German accent spoke up next, her voice shaking with emotion. The Global Unity Foundation built a school in my Albanian village after the flooding destroyed everything. My 3 daughters learned to read in that building. We've been trying for years to find ways to thank the foundation properly, creating an overwhelming picture of Dr. Williams's impact across racial, national, and cultural boundaries. Charlotte listened to each testimony, her earlier confidence and hatred crumbling with every word, replaced by crushing shame and dawning understanding of the magnitude of her mistake. Weeping female breakdown. Stop, Charlotte finally whispered, then louder through her tears. Please stop. I can't. I'm so sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. Humble a female apology. She turned to Maya, kneeling down to the child's level with tears streaming down her face. Sweetheart, I said terrible, horrible things about you and your mummy. I was wrong, so completely, utterly wrong. Your mummy is a hero, and I was too stupid and mean to see it. curing child innocence Maya with the remarkable resilience and forgiveness that children possess.
Why were you so mean to us? We didn't do anything bad.
Charlotte's voice broke completely.
Because I was ignorant and hateful. I believed things that weren't true about people who look like you. I hurt you because I was too foolish to see how wonderful and important your family really is. Your mommy helps people all over the world, and I was being a terrible person.
Dr. Williams, demonstrating the grace that had made her a global leader in reconciliation work, placed a gentle hand on Charlotte's shaking shoulder. We all make mistakes, Charlotte. What matters isn't the mistake. It's what we choose to do after we realize we're wrong. Growth comes from admitting error and choosing to be better. Thompson watched the interaction with quiet satisfaction, knowing his career might be over, but feeling absolutely no regret. Firm male pride. This, he said to the crowd of onlookers, now numbering nearly 100 as word spread through the palace grounds, is what true British values look like. Not the hatred and exclusion this young woman displayed initially, but the forgiveness and education Dr. Williams is offering now. Not the prejudice that divides communities, but the humanity that unites us across every artificial boundary. Dr. Williams glanced at Charlotte, still kneeling beside Maya, then at Thompson, whose career hung in the balance of this moment. Hate is learned behavior, but so is love. Understanding is possible when people are willing to listen, really listen, to experiences different from their own. Today, I think we all learned something about the power of truth over assumption, connection over division. Charlotte stood slowly, wiping her eyes but maintaining her composure. Dr. Williams, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it after what I said and how I acted. But I want you to know this encounter has fundamentally changed me. I'm going to learn about your work, support your foundation, and spend the rest of my life making sure I never again let ignorance turn me into the kind of person I was today. Something good came from something painful, Dr. Williams replied with simple profundity. That's how we heal the world. One conversation, one moment of truth, one changed heart at a time. Thompson would face a disciplinary hearing, but public support would be overwhelming. The Royal Guard's social media would receive hundreds of thousands of supportive messages. His commander would privately commend his actions while officially maintaining that protocol violations couldn't be ignored. Ultimately, he would receive a formal reprimand and a private commendation. Military bureaucracy's way of acknowledging that sometimes doing the right thing requires breaking the rules. Charlotte would indeed transform her life, becoming a major donor to the Global Unity Foundation and eventually joining their board of directors. She would spend years studying racial justice, attending workshops, and using her privilege to amplify marginalized voices rather than silence them. And Dr. Williams would continue her work, now with greater visibility and support, knowing that sometimes the most important victories happen not in conference rooms or courtrooms, but in public squares where strangers choose courage over comfort. What would you have done in Thompson's position, in Charlotte's, in Dr. Williams's? Sometimes the greatest courage isn't physical bravery, it's the moral courage to speak truth to power, to admit when we're wrong, to change when change is hard. Sometimes the most important battles aren't fought with weapons, but with words, with example, with the simple insistence that every human being deserves dignity and respect. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that challenge assumptions, inspire change, and remind us that our differences are not divisions, they're opportunities to learn, grow, and become better versions of ourselves. Hit that notification bell, because tomorrow we'll bring you another story that proves courage comes in many forms, and heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear everyday clothes. And sometimes they're 8-year-old girls who forgive adults for being cruel.